Send us the,
Okay, no, we're live.
Did I show?
Showing live. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, folks.
Go.
Hi, folks. I don't know what to do. We're early. Welcome. This is Saturday night. This is our Saturday Night Live, half of it. The other half will be broadcast on Thursday, same time, in the middle of our 18th Purple Heart class. And that means we will be having, let me do the math on this real quick. I think our 122nd soldier, combat wounded vet. We have one coming, so it starts tomorrow night. We've got one coming from Finland. We've got a student coming from Germany, and the rest are from the United States and a couple from Canada. So you'll get to have a peek in and see exactly what goes on. By Thursday, they're comfortable enough that we can walk around, show you their work, introduce them, have them introduce themselves. It'd be great. Frick, question. Oh, yeah, so somebody forgot to attach the question link to this last email, but Luther has an excuse. He had COVID all week.
He had the brain fog.
He had brain fog.
More
brain fog. It was dense, very dense. Anyway, so this is a night you get to ask your question and get it answered live.
Via the chat, so make sure you put all your questions in the chat.
Where else would they send it?
Email.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Keep them in the chat so they're all.
What have you got for me?
All right, first one comes from Marvin. He wants to know what you think of the Woodpecker brand of tools.
Hey, Marvin, I don't have any. So I can't comment. I think I've seen a few. They look nice. They're that anodized aluminum. So I would imagine. Actually, no, I have. Somebody came to a class once with them, and I know they're red, but really I haven't used them to give you an opinion. But they're manufactured in the U.S., and I'm pretty sure I know who the company is, isn't it? The one we. Yeah, it is. So it should be really good. But no, I've never used them. Sorry. Next, Frick.
Okay, next one comes from Dave Ducharme.
Oh, Dave. Dave was in our class in, I think, 2017. Tell me if I'm wrong, Dave. And Dave's been a huge supporter of Purple Heart Project, donates all the time. Huge thank you, Dave. And if my memory serves me right, I think Dave was a vet himself as well. He didn't come on our scholarship. Air Force? But he was a vet, so thank you, Dave. What's your question?
He says, hi, Rob. When are we going to hear about this new plane blade you've been using?
Well, we've been trying out a new plane blade just to see what we think, and don't really want to say anything until we've actually given it a good once-over. We've been using it for a few months. We only had one. We got another 6 or 7, so we're trying them, and we will pass on to you what we think as soon as we feel like we've given it a good sampling. So stay tuned. Next, Frick.
Next one comes from John Root. He says,
hi, John.
Wood River number 6 is difficult to adjust under reasonable tension. Do you have any suggestions?
The Wood River number 6 is difficult to adjust. Well, I'd adjust mine if I had a lever cap, but something tells me Jake took my lever cap for some reason.
Who's Ken?
So, difficult to adjust. We found one last week. That the hole that is drilled through the frog right here, in other words, this pin, was on a bit of an angle.
We don't know what he means.
That's why I'm covering all the bases.
Well,
and
Frick,
the area...
Can you have him clarify?
Never mind. I'm going to go through it. The area directly underneath here, in other words, the platform that this sits on, was sloped for some reason. So I took this off, and I took it off by just filing the backside, and then punched it through with a nail set. I filed that surface flat, it wasn't that difficult. And then to put it back into place, I cut a little chamfer on the hole on the backside, put the pin in, of course the pin was now flush, and then I just took a punch and I punched it around the edge a few times for enough metal to mushroom over into that chamfered area to keep that from falling out. So the reason that was a problem is because the sides of the lever cap were catching inside the slot in the blade and it would not allow it to move freely. If that doesn't solve the problem, you took my adjuster knob too. I suppose you could put a light coil on the face of the frog, but I don't see how that would be a problem. Huh, that's the only issue that I've had. Sometimes the bearing right here on the lateral adjustment lever is really snug fitting. I'll show you. Maybe a Wood River blade. Really snug fitting on the blade. Sometimes it actually snaps down in there. And if it isn't, and you're sitting up here on an edge like that, and then you put the pressure of the lever cap. So make sure that your blade is actually sitting flat on the frog, and you know that that bearing is sitting up inside that slot. And if those two things don't check out, I can't imagine what the problem would be. And if you want to go a little bit further, you could take the frog out, take the lateral adjustment lever off, like I said, knock that little pin out that holds your yoke. Actually, you don't even need to, because the yoke you can tape the yoke up and it'll hide right underneath. Take this screw out, and then just put a piece of sandpaper, sticky back sandpaper or something, on a flat reference surface, piece of granite, and try lapping this and see if that is indeed flat. And if you want to tell me more about what the problem is, I'll have another go at that, but it's the only thing I can think of that would be a problem. Next, Frick.
Anthony Steventon says,
Anthony?
Unable to get a Skewbock plane when doing dovetails. Have used the tape trick, but wondering if the Stanley number 78 would work.
Well, the big advantage of the Skewbock plane, and we've actually gotten away from it because they're not available. Now, I spoke with Tom Lee Nilsson a month or so ago, and he thought that maybe by the end of summer, but there was a lot of ifs involved. The reason why this worked so well is because you had the fence. And because the blade is skewed, when you run through your board, when you're running your plane like this, the angle of the blade pulls the tool this way, keeping it tight to the fence. Now, of course, you were up against a gauge line, so that gives you a nice clean line right there. If you didn't, you would have a torn line because of the blade cutting across the grain. So the fence is the reason why this did so well, or made it was such a nice, neat job.
Which was an addition by Lee Nielsen.
Yeah, the original Stanley 140 didn't have a fence. Now, the downside to using a Skewbock plane is that it changes the dimension of your drawer. So, because you've got a little rabbet, here's your tailboard. You got a little rabbet right there. When you put this together, the inside dimension is going to be narrower than the base or the bottom of the sockets on both pins because of that rabbet. That rabbet's going to come in here a little bit farther. So you always had to compensate for that. The nice thing about the tape is once you remove the tape, you're back to square one. So really, I'm tempted to say that this tape is as good, maybe even better, than using the Skewbock plane. And just a little plug, it was Ken's son that told us about this. So this stuff is Automotive Refinish masking tape. It's 5 thou thick versus 4 thou, which is the regular painter's tape, masking tape, and it's stickier. So it holds really well. I use 4 strips when I'm doing a dovetail, and that gives you a 20 thou wall, and it seems to work just fine. You want to make sure it's nice and clean. I do it multiple passes with my marking gauge to trim it, and then peel it off, and it works great. So you may not have to wait for the availability of a 140. And they really went up in price too. What did you say they are?
$385.
$385, and they were, 5 years ago, they were what? 2 1/4?
2 years ago, they were 2 1/4.
2 years ago, they were 2 1/4, now they're $385. Can't blame the guy. I know that it's a lot of machining involved. Next, Frick.
Next one comes from Mark Bitriloff.
Hi, Mark.
I've heard there are different qualities in MDF. How do you tell the difference?
Oh. Well, the big advantage to the better quality MDF is a lot of MDF is used now for what looks like a raised panel door, although it's not a raised panel, but they go in and they route a pattern that gives the appearance of a raised panel door. So the better MDF gives you, the side of it is a much denser, it's a denser product, so it finishes nicer. I'm trying to fighting for words here. How do you tell the difference? Ken, have you ever noticed if I gave you two different pieces of, what's the good stuff that we use? Remember the name of it? Two-pan or True-pan?
It's, yeah.
Okay, and could you tell the difference if I handed you that versus the other? We've had cheap stuff before, really crappy stuff.
When you tell the difference is when you're working it.
When you cut it?
When you cut it, when you sand it, or when you spray it.
Yeah, it doesn't absorb as much. Okay, so it's the interior is denser, and what I was told by the rep was it's all pine fiber, as opposed to whatever else they use, which I thought kind of odd. I thought the hardwood fiber would be better, but that's what he told me. I don't know if the actual surface is going to be much different, but if you're doing anything where you're going to have the exposed interior, it's worth it. It's only it wasn't that much more. I don't know what it's done now. Everything's gone crazy. Next, Frick.
Tom Holland.
Oh, sorry. Let me just finish that. So the reason we use it is when we make the workbenches and you've got 3 inches of MDF and you're spraying, if the old stuff, you'd have to spray it 5, 6, 7, 8 times before it would stop absorbing the material and look like it's dried right out. And you don't have to do that with this stuff. It'll seal much quicker than the cheaper stuff. Next, Frick.
Tom Holland says,
Hi, Tom.
What brand do you suggest? What brand do you suggest for engineer squares?
We like PEC, and the reason is here's a Starrett 12-inch solid steel engineer square, and I think it sells for somewhere around $700 or $800 US. And the same square in PEC is,
I think it's 105 or 6.
100 and low hundreds. And we've checked them where we put the other square in here and take a 1/1000 shim, and you can't pull it out anywhere along the length. So PEC, I think, is good, best value for what you're spending. You're getting a good tool. Some of the stuff they make in the U.S., the steel squares are made in India. Next, Frick.
Next one comes from Evan Bezzaretti.
Hey, Evan.
He says, what is the minimum stock thickness required for dovetails to be effective?
What is the minimum stock thickness for dovetails to be effective? Well,
It depends on how wide they are.
the application is going to dictate that. I mean, I've got dovetails here, and the drawer front is 13/16. The sides are 7/16. I've got dovetails here, where the sides are 5/16 and the fronts are half. I've got dovetails in a little box, a jewelry box out there, where the sides are 1/8 of an inch. Actually, sides and all around the stock's 1/8 of an inch. So I don't think there's any limit. So when you say to be effective, that you really have to tell me what circumstance you're using it in, what application, and then I can give you an opinion. But I will promote dovetails this way. You can make a big drawer, keep the drawers relatively thin, which helps to keep the sides, sorry, what did I say?
You said drawers.
You can make a big drawer, tall drawer, relatively thin sides, but because you got a dovetail front and back, it lends a whole bunch of strength. I could have easily made those drawers sides even thinner. However, the problem comes when you put your drawer bottom in. You've got to cut a groove to house it. So if you make this too thin, you just don't have any material left on the other side of the groove. So 7/16 is probably a minimum for a drawer like that. And these get used a lot. I open and close those multiple times a day. But great way to join two pieces of wood at a right angle. Ken, would you do me a favor? You know that little jewelry chest I made for Erica with the round top? It's out there with all that wood at work is displayed. Would you bring that over and I'll show him that? And if you can think of something else out there that's got really small drawers, dovetails, I'd show them. Next, Frick.
Dave M wants to know if
Dave.
if you allow or accept visitors at the shop if folks are visiting New Brunswick.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So he's visiting in mid-September. So
Yes.
let us know, Dave.
We always welcome you and your credit card anytime. Yes, happy to show you around. Anything we can do to promote PHP, happy to do it. Take you all the way through and give you a nice little tour. Just, we're not here Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11:15 to 1:30. We're out hockey time. Other than that, we're here Monday to Saturday. What?
Well, I was just going to step back to that dovetail question. As long as the proportions look fine, the dovetail would always be sufficient.
Yeah, I can't imagine an application when the dovetail has ever not been strong enough. Thanks to for the application. So here's an example.
These are really thin.
So where's my little 6-inch square? So these drawer sides are 1/4 of an inch. Drawer front is 5/8. It's because I like that long look. And the drawer bottom is sitting in a groove that is 1/8 of an inch deep. So you've got 1/8 of an inch on the other side. So that's okay. Now in this one, these little drawers, you see the little dovetail on there? I did these a long time
What
ago.
did you use for a bottom?
Piece of
Solid?
cherry, no, cherry ply. Must have been. So these drawer sides are 1/8 of an inch thick. So because that's plywood, that's probably only sitting in there, maybe a 1/16 of an inch.
The sides are thinner.
The sides are
Oh,
thinner.
it looked
No,
like
they're
that
not.
on the top.
No, the same. And this has been around for, this has been around, just got to push that leather in. I made this in 1987, I think. So it's held up that long. It's probably got another 100 years in it easily. Next question, Frick.
Next question comes from CF Chronicles in the chat, obviously. I want to make a liquor cabinet with timber doors. I have some really nice walnut burl veneer that I would like to use with it. How do I hide the edge of MDF to save some cost instead of using solid walnut?
Okay, I'm going to ask you to read that again for me, please.
So he's making a liquor cabinet with timber doors.
Timber doors, yeah.
He has some really nice walnut burl veneer
Yeah.
he would like to use with it. How do I hide the edge of MDF to save some cost instead of using solid walnut?
How do you hide the edge of the... Read the last half.
How do I hide the edge of MDF to save some cost instead of using solid walnut?
Okay. I can't imagine he's thinking that... I can't imagine that he's thinking... I think what he's saying is, can I use MDF? And how do I hide the edge as opposed to using a solid panel? Well, the big advantage of the MDF is the stability of it. So here's a good example. This is a solid piece of walnut, but what I did is I just wrapped that veneer up and over. Actually did it in two pieces, but it was the same piece with the top cut off. I showed you that only because take your if you're using veneer, the chances are that if you're using veneer, you're not going to get any solid wood that's going to look exactly like it. So I'm just trying to see if I have an example here of what I want to show you. You want to glue on a piece of solid walnut to the edge of your MDF, and it makes a really good glue joint. You don't have to worry about that. But then that regular walnut is really going to stand out against the veneer. So what I would do is I would put the solid walnut lipping, it's called, and then I would veneer the front of that as well. But now you've got veneer glued onto wood. Unlike the problem a lot of times is in cheap furniture, they'll veneer the edge of the MDF. Well, that's too easy to peel off. But if you did what I did, and you glued veneer onto a solid piece of wood. See, here's what I'm trying to avoid. Do you see the difference between the veneer? So if that was the front and that was the solid wood lipping, you can see how much of a difference it is. You're gonna have a hard time matching the solid wood to look like your veneer. But you can do that. You can just glue a piece of veneer on the lipping, and then it looks like it's all one nice solid piece. That's what I would do. Next, Rick.
Next one comes from Brian McDaniel.
Hey, Brian.
He says, can you demo the shooting board and explain how to close up the miter and what causes it to open on the inside and how to correct?
Okay.
I assume he wants you to demo the mitered shooting board.
The miter shooting board. All right. Ken? We'll just put this over here.
Ken, can you grab 2 pieces of pine and cut 45 on the chopstick, please?
So we're going to use the mitered shooting board.
Dad, do you have any strips of pine?
I might have to cut a couple pieces. You want a really sharp blade because you're going to be
You want
planing.
like 2 inches.
You're going to be planing end grain, even though you're doing it on a 45. When I use a mitered shooting board, Jake, you getting me here?
Yeah?
When I use a mitered shooting board, I like to clamp the shooting board in place. We have sandpaper that we put on the face of the fence so that it doesn't creep
Grab-
on you.
Hang on a second. Ken, grab,
You'll see
grab
what I
one of those
mean.
boards next to Dad's lathe.
What are you doing?
He's gonna.
I got a couple pieces right here.
What are you gonna use?
I'll just run this over the. Ken, am I going to risk your electronics? Well, I'm just hoping that this stuff is this uniform thickness because it was a piece of
Yeah, it might not be.
practice wood. Well, let me fix that.
What about that pine right there on your lathe? At your lathe.
This is wider than my
Rip a strip.
jointer. I can't have 2 things neat at the same time. So we've been getting the classroom ready for the class that starts Monday, which means we take everything from there and we move it in here. And then when it's done, we take everything in here and we move it out there. Got another run of these.
No.
Almost flat. Now we'll run that through the thickness planer. of slices. Cut them 2.5 inches. We'll go 3 inches wide.
3. That's all you need. Whoa, 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 whoa. Just cut that in half. A lot of waste.
Quit being cheap. Cut these at 45. This is just rough.
Okay.
Now,
Toggle switch right next to the clamp. Thank you.
we're going to use the miter. Actually, I'll leave the square out because we'll check it. We may have to fine tune it. Get rid of some of this stuff. How many times have I apologized for having a messy shop?
Too many.
Yeah, it's not sincere. I'm not even going to do it anymore. Now, I want my blade to be extremely sharp, as I mentioned, since we're going to be cut end grain and we're going to be cutting pine. So, seeing as all of my stones are out here,
This is your finishing stone.
the other half it's out here, or I'll have to do it out here. Shoot from a distance. Let them see how nice and neat it is. We had to make a, oh, here's so Rick Elder was here in our class.
He left it?
Well, he didn't know. So these are made, who makes these? Do you remember?
Josh Faust.
Josh Faust. Oh, I think that's Josh. I think he's, who's on tonight, Frick?
Guess? No. Jamie's on tonight.
Oh, Jamie Fagel. Anyway, so Josh makes these, and that's actually Purple Heart inlay all around there. And everybody, each one of the vets that gets a bench gets one of these, so we got to mail it to him. He didn't, I don't think he realized it was here.
He didn't take it. Danny took it to him.
So it's Danny's fault.
I'm not saying that.
Huh?
I'm not saying that.
If you're a combat wounded vet that has been to one of our classes, we would love to give you a shout out. So please let go.
At Gina.
Excuse me. Gina's on tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so just go at Gina and then your name and which class you were in, and we'll give you as big a shout out as we can give. Super Dave on?
Nope.
No?
No.
What are we going to do with him?
I haven't seen him in a while.
He's spending too much time with the goats.
Fellow goats.
What?
Fellow goats.
Fellow goats? He's obviously fussy who he hangs out with. All right, blade sharp. That was the 32 seconds of sharp, in case you missed it. I might have spent a little extra. So you would think that our classroom would all be ready, since we just finished a class last Saturday, but it wasn't. I did some remodeling. We had two benches left with 2 Canadian vets, thanks to the Kodiak Woodworkers Club, who made those benches. One went home with, one bench went home with,
I don't know.
yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Oh, you weren't here. No, I got fog. I'll think of it in a second. Oh, one went home with Mike over in Amherst, Nova Scotia. And one went home with Mr. McDonald, who's from Garden of Eden, Nova Scotia. All right, so that would be Corey McDonald. I like to call him Mr. McDonald. He's a school teacher now, combat wounded vet. Where's my wax, Jake? Do you see it? This is a long
That was on the
question.
drill
Hey, we
press.
got the.
That was on the drill press.
No. All right. Normally, if I could find my wax, there it is, right? No, that's the cap. If I could find my wax, I would wax the side and the bottom. I'm making sure that the blade is parallel to the sole. Now, the plane wants to pull this forward, and when pulling it forward, it pulls it out like that away from the fence. So I hold my finger right back here to kind of control it. The sandpaper does a lot too. So I'm really pushing hard that way. Then I want to check and make sure that that is square, and that if I needed to, I would adjust the blade. I would skew the blade one way or the other in order to make sure. Now I don't have a point on this piece, so I got to take a little more extra.
You didn't have one on the other one?
I didn't?
No.
I have Jamie on the line whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me finish this. All right. So there's my two pieces.
Clamp it back in.
Now, if I have to, we're going to make a little adjustment. So that should go together, and the joint essentially disappears. Now, we'll put a square on there and see how close we are.
Go this way.
Why?
I can't see it that way.
Fussy. We are out over 12 inches. We're out a little bit. So I got to take a little bit off the inside. So what I'm going to do is use my shim, and I'm going to guess 17th thou. I'm going to put it right there. Oh, that's too much. That's way too much. He's not in a hurry, is he, Frick?
I don't know.
I'll
He's
try.
watching, so.
I'll try 4th thou. So I'll put this in place. Now what I'm doing is just holding it out a small amount. Get all the stuff out of my way. I'll do both. Something tells me that might not have been enough. Hold that together. I can still, I can't, I don't know if you can see or not. I think there might be just a little bit of light in there. So I'm going to jump up to, I'll try 6th thou. Right here at the end. Make sure you're pushing the plane tight this way. And I'm pushing like this too, so that it's tight here and pushing against the shim. Okay, try that. Now, I neglected to do this, but I would have normally shot that and not shot, but jointed this, and the outside as well. Now, if we put that on there nice and tight, put that in, and that appears to be, for the best I can tell, I don't think I can see any light down there. And what I would do is I would glue this up. It's nice and smooth. I would put glue on both of them, put something underneath it, won't allow it to stick, and I would hold it like that. And depending on what it is, I'd hold it there for 5 minutes, a couple of songs on the radio, and then that'll be enough to hold it together, and then I would go in and I would spline it or whatever way of reinforcing that. The other thing that I do that I want to show you because I really like them is I use these things. Just give me a second to grab the right one. I'll need two. This is the best way I find of clamping a miter. So what it is, it's a couple pieces of plywood with a V-notch cut in it, piece of sandpaper on the bottom, and the line of force goes right about in the middle, and it's on a 45 degree to this surface. So I would put it about there and there. Let me grab a couple of clamps. Now, if you're using pine, you're going to have to put something on there that will protect this side of the wood. Now, if you're going to go like that, then you've got to do, I want these to be in the same spot, so let me just measure this. 3 1/4. 3, that's about right. If I put that clamp like this, then it's going to be in the way. So what I've got to do is I put one on one side, meaning the handle's on the outside of the miter. This one's on the inside of the miter. Snug that up. And then get one that'll stretch across. Close your joint. Wait a minute, now that's caught on that. There. And you can put a tremendous amount of pressure on there, not that you need it. And if you needed to, you could come in and you could put, especially on a wide miter, I would apply moderate pressure like that and like this. Enough to keep them flush, but not enough to prevent them from moving as you pull the joint tight with this. Now once the glue sets up, you got a nice, good joint, and then you can go in and reinforce it somehow. Good question.
Now, explain what you would do if the miter was splayed in a different direction.
He's telling me to hurry up.
I know. You haven't answered the question.
What's the question?
If it was out, so you demonstrated if the miter was out by more than 90
then I would have
degrees.
then if it was the other way, I would have put my shim in here. I would have put my shim in there, and I would have held them out from this a little bit.
To take more off of the toe.
To make off the toe. So you just have to adjust one way or the other. And I do it to both. I don't like doing it just to one. And if you want it to be perfect, you know, on that, I would do this one, and on that last one, you got to do both, and you just have to adjust it until you get it just right. But you can finesse it with this setup really nicely. Okay, so here's our problem. Here's our situation we have. We started the bench brigade 2 years ago. Jack Lane down in Tejas, and Jim Rossetti up in Moncton, New Brunswick. And we make sure we provide a workbench to every vet that comes to our program, and Jack Lane does a very good job of making it so that the guy who builds it can actually deliver it, which makes a huge difference to the the significance of the event. And we put that on our Facebook page. We have what's the name of that, Frick? That Facebook page where we put the videos when the benches get delivered.
Rob Cosman's PHP Bench Brigade.
Can you put a link to that?
Yep.
Okay. So here's our
Sorry,
challenge.
my mic was off. It's Rob Cosman's PHP Bench Brigade on Facebook.
And Frick will put a link in.
Yep.
So we have Zach, who was here in our last class, and Zach came from Ireland. And who else? Oh, and we have a vet who's coming this week, and he's coming from not Norway. Where's he coming from? I got to get this right. Finland. Thank you, Ken. Coming from Finland. So we need a couple of volunteers to build benches. One somewhere near Ireland, and the other one somewhere near Finland. And we help you. We send you the plans. We actually send you the vise. We send you the bench dogs. So all you have to do is procure the materials and build it as per the specs. A lot of guys have gone to their neighborhood big box store, told what they were doing, and the materials got donated. Now, a lot of the guys that do this, guys, gals, whoever, really enjoy it. In fact, they like it so much they do it multiple times. So we have someone on the line that's going to tell you why he does it.
Denmark, not Finland.
Pardon?
Denmark.
Denmark, I'm sorry. It's a rough week. This vet is from Denmark. What's his name?
I'm not sure. Casper von Grafeld.
That's his name, Casper?
I think so.
Casper von... We'll find out when he's here.
Casper is actually he's in the airport right now. He's watching right now.
Oh, is it? Hey, Casper.
He's made it to Newark. It looks like.
Good. You're almost here.
All right.
So, Casper, we're looking for someone to build a bench for you and a bench for Zach. So who do we have on, Frick?
We have Jamie Fagel.
Jamie Fagel.
Who's on his third bench so far. So he's a bench brigade superstar. He's built Phil Hines and Patrick Coles, and he's working on Dan Orth.
So Dan was just here in our last class. Dan was a Special Forces medic. And we had a bunch of Dans in the class.
All right, so he's...
Great guy. How can I get in here and see?
He's right there.
There he is.
All right, go ahead, Jamie.
Jamie, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Rob?
Just
everybody
dandy.
else.
Thanks for taking our request at such short notice.
Yeah, not a problem. My pleasure.
So I give you a couple of minutes. Can you just tell people why you do this and why somebody might want to consider doing it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the most gratifying things I've done in my entire life. I mean, delivering that bench to the veteran, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, if you look at this behind me, I don't know if you can all see it. It says freedom is not free. And these guys have fought for us in all these different wars and all these different conflicts. You know, the least that we can do to just even try to pay back what they've done is build a simple little thing. Say thank you for your service. You know, just do a donation to Rob's cause here. I mean, it's completely fulfilling. It doesn't take but a couple of $100, maybe a weekend's work, get with your buddies and build one. But honestly, guys, we need some people over in Europe to do the same thing for the veterans over there. They fought equally as hard as we have in Canada and the U.S. Without these guys, we don't have the freedom that we have right now. You know, so I feel it's just a small thing that I can do. So I think everybody else should pitch in and do the same. So I challenge everybody over in Europe and Denmark and Australia and anywhere else we need a bench full, chip in, do your part, pay these guys back. They deserve it.
Thank you, Jamie. How did you find us, or how did you get involved?
I found you, I think, just kind of flicking through YouTube. I've been in woodworking most of my life since out of high school, actually. But I found a new sense of well-being just doing hand woodworking. You know, I've been out doing it all this time, and it's all been machine woodworking, and you really kind of lose sense of the fun and the peacefulness of actually using hand tools. And, you know, I thoroughly enjoy it. I found I love woodworking again. You know, it turned into, it's still a business for me. But I go in on, Saturdays and Sundays, my quiet time, and I get to, play around with my tools that I bought from Rob.
And that didn't hurt either.
No, but in all seriousness, guys, we owe these guys a debt of gratitude. It's a small thing. I'll do them every single time. Just give me a call.
Jack,
Like I said, I bring my guy, drop them off. We just, the guys just light up when they drop them off and meet with these guys. Talk to them about their story. It's just amazing.
Jack's been good to work with.
Oh, he's awesome. And watching you guys, Luther and Frick and your son Jake. As I said, I watch you guys all the time. It's amazing.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Hopefully you'll inspire somebody out there. It may just be we don't have many followers there, but we only need one. Well, one in each country.
I watch all the comments on there. There's people all around the world. They can all pitch in. If they can't do it, maybe they know somebody who can, where they can get together and just help out, and maybe it's a team effort. Like I said, a couple $100, go talk to your local lumber yard. They can help you out with the materials maybe. It's all for a good cause, and everybody seems to want to chip in, so why not?
Yeah, it's giving up other people an opportunity to step up. You're not asking for something, you're sharing an opportunity. When we changed our approach, we just had people coming out of the woodwork, pardon the pun, to help out, whether it was with helping us with hotels, helping us with transportation, meals, whatever it happened to be. We have more volunteers than you can shake a stick at. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, the first one... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I said the first one is a little scary. Just, I was nervous, didn't know what to expect when I met him. And, once I got that one done, it was one of the greatest pleasures of my life. I'd love to do another one. And if you want, Rob, you can give any one of these people who might want to do a bench my phone number. If they need help or any suggestions or anything, feel free to call.
Thank you. We will keep you busy.
All right, my pleasure.
Thanks,
guys.
Jamie.
Appreciate it.
So, Jack Lane down in Texas. He's the great-grandfather of Stella, who, by the way, is doing phenomenally well. In fact, I think she's due to go home in about a week. She's up over 7 pounds.
What's crazy to me is that she was born over 4 months ago, and she just hit her due date, which is nuts to think about. Her due date just passed, and she was born 4 months ago.
She was a pound. She actually dropped below a pound in that first little bit, but we've watched her, and she's been in the thoughts and prayers of a lot of people. So, Stella! Way to go. And can't forget Angie. She's out there watching, I'm sure.
And
She dodged a bullet.
she worked for me today so I could have the day off.
Did she?
Thank her for that.
Big thank you, Angie, for allowing Ken to get here. They had a little COVID scare, but they came through it without any problems. So, awesome. Thank you, Lynn. Any vets to say hello to?
I know Kevin Burris is here.
Hey, Kev.
Actually,
Pinky was on.
yeah, Pinky was
Oh,
here.
Pinky was.
Yes, sir.
Did Pinky's bench get delivered or is it about to be delivered?
Oh, they made some comment about it. I think it's this week.
Pink, hold on, brother.
Sue B's on.
Hey, Sue. Down there in Florida cooking. It was hot here today. It was in the low 30s. That's Celsius.
Jerry Pickering is here.
Oh, Jerry's here. Actually, it's funny you should mention Jerry's name. I just took a thank you card from Jerry. So Jerry sent us I think we did it. We did. Jerry sent us Jerry was a medic in Vietnam, and Jerry sent us a really cool first aid kit for all the levels of injury. The last one said somebody's going to the hospital. I think there might even be a tourniquet in there. Anyway,
Jake T is here.
who is?
Jake T. Torola, maybe?
Oh, Jake Tarola.
Yeah.
Jake, brother.
He says sweet lettuce.
Sweet lettuce.
All the other people are like, what's with the hair? So
What do you mean, what's with the hair? I'm not cutting my hair until things in the Canadian government change. We'll put it that way.
yeah, it'll
I
be a
could have
while.
long hair.
You'll have dreadlocks.
What?
You'll have dreadlocks by the time that's over.
Jake, we had Pete who is a friend of Jeff O'Connor's, who came here last week. And Pete came and played all 3 games with us, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, scored a goal on Monday. Big shout out to Pete, if he ever does see this. Moose still talks about you, Jake. He's not here tonight. I think he forgot we were on. We'll be back on Thursday night, remember, and we'll do our draw Thursday night. So we give away a prize for every $1,000 increment in donations, whether it's a shave brush from Jeff O'Connor, O'Connor Woodworking, or whether it's a kiss stick, an Irish kiss stick from O'Connor Woodworking. It might be a cutting board. That one's called the Tumbling Block from Bob Abbott, VintageWoodworker.com, or it might be a engraving on slate or granite from Kevin Burris, BurrisWoodworking.com. I got my favorite one is out there. Actually, we've got 2 out there. The one that has the mission statement of the shop, I'm going to put that in a permanent spot. I took it down. It was on top of my bench, but I'm afraid it's going to get bumped and slate hits the ground. It might break.
Ferris Butler from July.
Ferris is on?
Yeah, you just here last week.
Yep, Ferris was here. Ferris Bueller, that is not Butler.
John Beck.
Hey, John.
Gary
John,
Burke.
Vietnam vet.
Yep.
John, your bench I know is in the works as well. I've been corresponding with somebody. So Ferris has got, I asked Ferris to do a video that we can show every time we do the program. Ferris has spent the last 20 years. Ferris is a double amputee, but you wouldn't know it. And he's worked tirelessly to help other veterans, combat wounded veterans, get their due, help them get taken care of. So he gave a lot of great information. So a big shout out to you, Ferris. Thank you for doing that. And don't forget my video. And we're going to have him on. Someday this week. We're going to do live so he can address the guys that are here.
Gary Burnett's here.
Hey, Gary.
And Mike Cook.
Gary's down there. Mike's on?
Yep, from last week as well.
So Gary is a Vietnam vet. Gary's down in Tennessee. He's missing his buddy Danny Bell, but Gary, you're going to have to make your way up to Maine someday, brother. And Mike Cook. I am so glad I found Mike Cook. Mike Cook found me. We were going to do a class. I was just going to do a Saturday class for the locals, but it never does work out. Mike was the only one that signed up. So when I called to tell him the bad news, I said, Mike, you get 3 or 4 friends and I'll do a class for you. And then when he told me that his situation, he was a retired Canadian Special Forces combat wounded vet. So I said, well, we got to take care of him somehow. And it just so happened that another vet that was coming to the class last week went for emergency surgery, and it opened up a spot. So we got Mike over here, and it was a pleasure to have him. Big guy. And Mike, I hope you're working. You got to take your bench home. So Mike's bench was delivered to him. Well, he took it home from here in his truck, and that was made by the Kodiak Woodworker. So that's Jim and his friends up there just outside of Moncton.
Jerry Pickering got his bench today as well, which was built by Cliff Bennett.
Awesome, Jerry, and awesome, Cliff. And I hope you got a video. Everybody needs to see this so they can appreciate the generosity that goes into this. Anybody else on?
No.
At least we got a rash of some of the locals on, the recent ones, I mean. All right, what's next, Frick?
We got 5 minutes.
We have lots of time.
No, we don't. You want to rapid fire a couple?
Yeah.
Okay, Chuck Abel says,
Hey, Chuck.
if money wasn't an issue, what would be your favorite meal out?
Money's never an issue. Money is nothing more than a reward for service rendered. Do more service, get more money.
Okay, tell him what you want.
Just answer the friggin' question.
What do you want to eat?
What would be my favorite meal out? I would go to Suwana in St. John, New Brunswick, owned by a good friend of mine, James, and his parents. And I would get cashew chicken. It's absolutely delicious. If you're ever anywhere near here, take the detour and go get it. You'll love it. And I don't think, that would be my meal. I go there once or twice. Well, I actually go probably average every 10 days. However, the food has been so incredible here when we do the class. Anita and my wife Kim and Erica's out there and Megan and Gina. Food is phenomenal. It's so much better than my woodworking that's all gets talked about. I got to get those guys to cut back a little. So I gained 5 pounds every time we do that class. Next question, Frick.
Anton H. What other uses are
Anton?
there for a Skewbock plane aside from a rabbit for dovetails?
Skewbock plane is really good for cleaning up a rabbet on the long edge of a board. Trying to think of where else that I've used it. You know, the claim is that you can put the side plate on, take the fence off, and use it as a block plane. But it's really awkward because it pulls to the side really bad. Where else would I use this? That's an interesting question because with the exception of maybe cleaning up a rabbet, like I said, long edge of a board, I would rarely use this for anything other than when we would cut dovetails, cutting a little rabbet. Oh, no, sorry. Now that I'm thinking. You could use it to adjust the thickness of a tenon. I think it's more accurate to use a router plane, but you could use that as well, which is nice because you've got the fence, so you can set it so that the corner of the blade is right in where the shoulder and the cheek meet. It's a good joinery plane. If you need access to, if you need a plane that gives you the ability to cut right up to a vertical surface, that's the big advantage. Similar to a shoulder plane, only I think you have a little more control with this, especially with the fence. Next, Rick.
Gary Nels
Hey,
in
Gary.
Tillsonburg, Ontario. Would you ever use a number 7 on a shooting board instead of a 5.5?
Yeah, a number 7 and number 8, both are great planes on the shooting board because of the extra length you have ahead of the, that little carving came from Blaise up in Quebec, another combat wounded vet that was in our program. Blaise Lapointe, who has 9, I think he just had his 10th child. His wife did. So you see how much distance you have? That's all time for you to get a really good run. So if you're shooting the end of a piece of hard wood, it's nice to be able to get a good run at it. You can't start away from the board. You have to be engaged in the end. Otherwise, you're going to hit the side. So now you've got all that time to wind that thing up before the blade meets. So if you compare the two, 5.5 on my left, you see how much extra length you have. Of course, you got a lot more mass, so it's going to be easier to carry it through. The problem is it's a large plane to use for general purpose on the bench. So that's why my 5.5 is my go-to on the shooting board. Next, Frick.
Todd Laginus from Dayton, Ohio.
Hey, Todd.
What are your thoughts on the Wood River number 62?
Don't do 62s. Don't like 62s. I don't care who makes it. I would take an original Stanley if you had it just for a collector item, but I'm not interested in 62s. Don't like the fact that it has less surface area on the side. I don't like the fact that the blade's sitting so low. It's very difficult to get underneath there and adjust it.
And that you can't adjust on the fly.
Yeah, the fact that you can't be, when you're planing, you can't be adjusting the blade a little bit as you go. Not interested in it, don't like it, don't know why people recommend it. It was never a popular plane. I think the Stanley only made them for 15 or 16 years. So there's not a flood of them, there's not a bunch of them everywhere because they were not a popular plane in a time and age when there were lots of people that used the plane professionally. And that talk about, well, it's easier just to change the angle, but you can change the blade. Well, fine. You can do the same thing with a regular bench plane where the blade is beveled down. You just put a back bevel on of a different.
But that's such a small gain.
Yeah, it's not even a gain. I don't like it. Don't like that plane at all. Sorry, you hit a nerve. Next, Frick.
That's it.
Oh, one more time. One for the road.
Okay, this one's quick. Ray Willoughby says,
Hey, Ray.
Lee Nielsen doesn't offer panel saws anymore. What other brands do you recommend?
Don't.
What?
We don't.
We're working on it. We are trying to, we're working on making them ourselves. I don't know why nobody's making them. I suggested one the other day. Jake, that's a brand new. And the delivery times are just way out there. So I'm sorry, I can't. You're going to have to go buy an old Diston and fix it up until we can get some made. But for some reason, nobody seems to want to make them. And the 1 or 2 guys that do make them are so far behind, you're waiting 4 or 5 months. I don't get it. And I don't understand why Lee Nielsen didn't continue because they were a lovely saw. I have 4 of them. Okay, so we're coming back here Thursday night. I don't know the date. Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. We're going to film out there with all the vets and the students that are in the class. We've got a full class. Should be good. Danny Bell's coming up from Maine. Danny's going to be taking Luther's position. I've got Al McNeil is going to be my returning student assistant for the week. Jake will be there. Ken will be popping his head in. And it should be a fantastic week. We're going to try to mix it up a little bit and have a little bit of extracurricular activity during the week to just break up the long days. Food will be fantastic. Too bad you couldn't join us with classes full, but we'll open up next year's classes as soon as we can. All right, thanks for being here. We'll see you Thursday night. We'll have a draw, we'll give away some prizes. Have a wonderful week, and for those vets that are traveling, travel safe. We'll see you tomorrow. See ya.